Hey friends, welcome back to the Bald Booktuber. My name is Scott. I know it has been nearly a month since my last video, and I apologize for that. I would love to say that there is some amazing excuse about how life has been crazy or about how busy I've been. The simple fact of the matter is I've been lazy, and I apologize for that. My life has been somewhat dominated lately by some non-reading related activities, primarily my Chicago Cubs not being awful. They have been actually quite good thus far into the season, about a month in, and I am excited to be watching a lot of them, which is ultimately taking up a ton of my time. My apologies. Additionally, as far as non-reading related activities, the chess championship, World Chess Championship, has just concluded. Ding Liren of China defeated Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia for the first time in a decade. We have a non-Magnus Carlsen world champion as he abdicated his throne. I am a huge Magnus fan. I think he's the greatest player to ever sit at a chessboard. But it is a new era. It was exciting chess. For those of us that know. It was not perfect all the time, but as a spectator, it was a lot of fun to keep up with and watch. And typically they would do a couple of days on, one day off, a couple days on, one day off. And it was very early in the morning my time. The games kicked off at 3 a.m. So by the time I rolled out of bed, a lot of times the games had pretty much been over, but I watched what commentary I could. So I know none of you are here for any of that, but I just wanted to say some of the non-reading related activities that have somewhat dominated my time of late. We are here for my April reading wrap-up, so that is what I will talk about primarily. Just as I have not been publishing a ton of videos, and by a ton I mean really any, in almost a month, it was a relatively light reading month. I loved what I read, but it was quite minimal, unfortunately. But I am here to talk about what I did read, so we will get into that. So, as usual, we'll go from least favorite to most favorite and kind of go from there. In terms of the least favorite, but something I did quite enjoy, the debut novel for James Butcher. This, of course, is Jim Butcher's son, Jim Butcher, who authors the Dresden Files, the Codex Alera, and the Aeronauts Windlass. So James is working on his own series. First book is Dead Man's Hand. I gave it 3 Stanley nods. I enjoyed it quite a little bit. Kind of what I would say is, to me, it was on par with the quality level of his father, Jim Butcher's first Dresden novel, Stormfront, in that it is not perfect. At times it has some pacing issues. At other times there are some, I don't know, just clunky bits of dialogue and pacing and these kinds of things. So James's story is about a witch, or a half witch, as he is termed in the book. He's attempting to become part of this order of witches, and it's got a hunter. So it's about sort of the relationship evolving between these two individuals. I didn't necessarily love either of the characters. I liked them. I need more. Mayflower, who is the hunter, I liked the more of the two. And I think that it is set up nicely to go into some interesting places as we go into book 2 and beyond. Book 2 will be out later this year, so I am interested to see where he takes this story. But ultimately, I thought it was good, but I wasn't overwhelmed by it. Next up, I'm gonna talk really about the trilogy as a whole. because I read all of Greenbone's Saga by Fonda Lee. So this is a trilogy that I've been meaning to get to for a long time, more than 2 years probably, at least more than a year and a half on my TBR, and I finally got to it. We have Jade City, Jade War, Jade Legacy. Probably in terms of my own personal enjoyment, I would say Jade Legacy slightly over Jade City, slightly over Jade War, but I really enjoyed all three of them. 5 Stanley nods across the board. So what we have here is it felt a bit like Allomancy in terms of the magic. So if you're familiar with Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, it felt like that. But it's set initially in what feels like 50s Japan, and moves up to the present day. So it's all sort of Yakuza style mafia setting and people. So we've got these clans that are battling for supremacy in their region. Janloon is the name of the city. The clans are the No Peak clan, which has the characters that we follow most closely. So we have, at the beginning of the story, Lon is what's called the Pillar. You kind of think of the Godfather or the head individual. We have Hilo, who is the Horn. This is the individual who is in charge of the militia and kind of the fighting on the streets. And then we have Shay, who is their sister and has sort of left the clan. Those are really our 3 primary viewpoints. We're also introduced to Andon, who at the time of the first story is at their fighting school to kind of learn how to be a Jade warrior. Jade is the focus, obviously, with the name of the books. That is the magical implement that is utilized. So over the course of the story, we see how the lives of these individuals unfold and how they interact and relate to one another. I really, really loved all the family dynamics and how all of the bits and pieces and moving parts go throughout the story. And it skips way into the future. So these are relatively young people at the start of the story. By the end, they are well-aged, and, we get to see them as parental figures and different things like that, which I always enjoy. I don't want to give anything away spoiler-wise because I want everyone to appreciate this story on its own merit and to try it for yourselves, but highly recommend from me. I had a wonderful time with this series. And then finally, a broken record at this point, but my book of the month was, of course, Citadel of the Autarch.
Good stuff.
This is book 4 of Book of the New Sun. I had intended to have completed reading it by the 22nd. That was initially when I was going to meet with Christopher Rocchio of the Sun Eater series and talk through the particular aspects of it as we have the first 3 books. I didn't get that done in time, so Christopher and I will be meeting sometime in May to talk through it. That book is ridiculous. It has one of my favorite things in fantasy and sci-fi, which is a series of stories within the broader story. And, not just, people telling each other something randomly. The stories each have their own deep meta meanings and this kind of stuff. So unraveling all of that is going to be a joy. I know that there were particular points of confusion that I had.
I still don't get it.
That I will need him to help me through. I am amazed at this point that I have completed the primary series. I will be moving on to Earth of the New Sun, which is sort of a coda to the story that he wrote much later. I'll do that in May, and we'll talk through that as well. But yeah, to have completed the primary 4 books, I didn't think I'd be able to say that. I thought I was going to tap out at some point out of sheer confusion and bewilderment, but here we are. So I am excited to have completed it, and I'm having a great time talking through that with Mr. Rocchio. Speaking of Mr. Rocchio, a couple quick notes. I did also read his newest short story in Grimdark magazine, The Royal Game. So this was fantastic. This sets up some of the events directly preceding Ashes of Man, and sets us up for what we're going to be going into in Disquiet Gods, which will be out next year. So I am excited to have had a chance to read that, and it was great. So not book of the month or anything because it's a short story, but I did want to make mention of it. Also, Mr. Rocchio, he had his Kickstarter the other night. So if you aren't aware of this campaign that he did, he teamed up with fellow author Steve Diamond, who is known for having done some deluxe editions and worked on some of those projects in the past. The concept was that he had permission from his previous publisher, Daw Books, to self-publish 500 copies of Empire of Silence. And basically, Empire of Silence is a very hard to get hardback. I got this, secondhand market. I was very fortunate to get a copy because they are quite rare at this point, and many people are turned away from the series to start reading it because they can't get a hardback in the US. I'm not sure how difficult it is in the UK. So this campaign is 500 copies. That's all he had permission to do. And of those, 474 are a very nice numbered leather edition. And then the 26 remaining copies are a lettered A to Z kind of deluxe edition with some extra art and some extra features. I was fortunate enough to have backed at the highest level with the lettered edition. It will be one of the obviously only 26 copies in the world. I'm so excited to have it on my shelf. It'll come with kind of a clamshell tray case, which I don't have any books that have something like that. So I'm super stoked about that. And the good news is it locks me in for as long as I want to. They plan to do this treatment with all of the books as long as there's still demand for them. And so they will reach out to me first, see if I want to keep my letter, see if I want to keep sort of my place in line to get those future editions of the future books. So I am stoked about that. The campaign was wildly successful by any measure. It was funded within 2 minutes of opening. It was completely sold out of the 500 copies they could do within an hour. Fortunately, I was able to get in and get backed at the level I wanted to right away, or else I would have missed out. So excited for that. I'll put some information about that in the description, as well as some videos about it, including from Christopher's own channel and one that he did with Mike at Mike's Book Reviews, to sort of hype it up a bit. And my advice would be, if you still want to, be a part of this, even though the books themselves are gone, there is an ebook level for $10 where you can support Christopher and get some a couple previously unpublished stories that are coming. There is also a level where you can back and get a poster. So if you want to spruce up your walls a bit, you can grab a poster. That'll also entitle you, obviously, to the digital ebook level, so you get those stories as well. I'm always happy when good things happen to Mr. Rocchio. He is also a father-to-be sometime this month or next month, so lots of cool stuff with his family, and I couldn't be happier for him. He's a fantastic guy, and to see this kind of demand for his books makes me quite happy. So I hope if you haven't checked him out yet, you absolutely will. Also, in the month of April, I had the good fortune to talk about, in my mind, the greatest fantasy novel ever written, and my personal favorite fantasy book ever written, by George R.R. Martin, A Storm of Swords, Book 3 of A Song of Ice and Fire. This was our group that has been discussing the books in order as we have been rereading them. This was Joanna Sousa, and Alex, a Tall Guy Reads. This was over on Alex's channel. I will have it linked in the description. I hope you check it out. I thought it was a very engaging and fun conversation. I hope that I was able to contribute something of value to it, but I especially enjoyed the insights of my three colleagues as we talked through this fascinating and endlessly wonderful book. Alex will additionally be having a secondary live show on his channel this coming weekend. I will have the details of that pinned as well in my comments. So I will be taking on A Feast for Crows and leading those discussions in May, so I can't wait. I've actually started the book already. I'm about 200 pages in, and I've been working on it for less than maybe 4 hours so far, so I'm flying through it and having a wonderful time. But yeah, I do hope you check it out. It was great, and I always have a ton of fun talking to those wonderful folks. And with that, I think we'll probably stop there. Again, I know 5 books is quite a bit less than I uh, set out to do. It's been, me a little bit doing some other stuff that has impeded that. I'm going to try and do better in May. Coming up here, I'll have my May plans, and I'll do my best to stick to them. But I did enjoy everything that I read in April, and it was a very nice month in a lot of ways. So I hope you're all doing well, and until next time, publication order always, my friends.